Hi kids, are you having a good Christmas? I hope you've been able to spend some time with some family or friends you enjoy. Maybe you've had a special meal, maybe got some gifts. However you're spending it, I hope you're having a good time. As we think of the Christmas story, I think a lot about angels. There are several mentions in the story about angels appearing to people. One of the angels appears to Mary to announce to her that God's chosen her to be the mother of his son. Another angel goes to the shepherds when Jesus has been born, and he announces to them that he's arrived. And then the sky is filled with hundreds of thousands of angels. Now, when I think of an angel, well, do you think of something like this? Someone with wings and a long fancy robe? Yeah, me too. But what about this? Can you see? An old man on a bike. Is he an angel? I'd like to tell you a story. And it's about a very unusual angel. And I know it's a true story because this story happened to me. A long time ago now, when I was just out of school, I spent 2-3 weeks on a mission trip in a country where the government didn't like Christians. They made life very difficult for them there. And we'd gone to encourage a small community of Christians in this country. Now, near the end of our time there was suddenly news one day that the government had been overthrown. The president had been arrested, and there was going to be a new government in place. But no one knew what was happening really, and it was a bit of a scary time. Now, all the local people were told they needed to stay home in their houses. They shouldn't be out on the streets. And any foreigners were told that they needed to leave the country immediately. So we had to say goodbye to our friends there. We packed our things, we got some food ready, and we got in our car and we had to drive to the border. Now, when we'd arrived, it had taken us more than a day to drive from the border to where we were staying. And now we had to do it all in one go, going back. We left in the middle of the afternoon and we drove through the evening. It got dark. We had to keep on driving. We were getting very tired, but we still had to keep going. And it was about 2:00 in the morning. It was very dark, very quiet. No one was around. Everyone had to be home. There were no other cars on the roads. And we suddenly realized we didn't know where we were. We must have taken a wrong turn somewhere because we were starting to enter a city. And when we looked at our map, there shouldn't have been a city near where we thought we were, so we couldn't have been where we thought we were. But we didn't know where we were after all. And there was no one around to ask, and even if there had been, we didn't speak the language, and most people didn't speak English. We couldn't even read the street signs because it was in a different language, and they didn't have the same alphabet, and we couldn't recognize a lot of the symbols on the street signs. So we were really stuck. So we started to pray. We pulled over to the side of the road and we started to pray. And when we finished praying, we looked up, and right at the end of the street, and it was a dark road, but there were a few street lights that spotlit the road in places. Someone was coming towards us. And it took a while because they were coming slowly, but we realized there was an old man on a bike coming towards us. And when he arrived, he looked at us rather strangely and he tried to speak to us, but of course we didn't know what he was saying. And we pointed on the map to show where we wanted to go, and he almost laughed. We were nowhere near there. So he tried to give us directions, but we didn't understand him. So after a few minutes of trying, he got back on his bike and we thought, he's leaving. But then he beckoned, he said, come. Well, we presumed he was saying that. He was speaking a different language, but he was beckoning us. And we turned the car around and we followed him. And for quite a number of minutes, we followed him very slowly, going down one road and taking a turn and then going down another road. And eventually we got to a large junction and he pointed at a particular road, and we were able to recognize a few of the squiggles on the road sign. And we realized this was the road that we needed. It was going to take us to the border. And so we turned around to thank him. there was no one there. Now there was grass and open fields on both sides of this road, and we got out and we looked to make sure he hadn't fallen off his bike behind us. There was no one there. No one in the road in front of us or behind us, to the side of us. No sign of anyone. Wow, we were surprised, and we realized that God had sent an angel to watch over us and guide us. So why am I telling you this story? Well, I think it's an exciting story, but this story really had an impact on me. You see, no matter how I feel later on, when there are times I don't feel God very close to me, it's not that God isn't close, but I just don't feel him closely sometimes. And it's important in these times that we look back at other times when God has shown very clearly that he sees us and he understands what we need and that he cares for us. And that's what God had done. He'd seen us in the dark. He'd seen us when there was no one else around. We couldn't ask for help from anyone else. And he had cared for us. He provided a way out for us. And so there are times that we need to remember this. We don't always feel that God is close to us, but he always is. He's always seeing us, always hearing our prayers when we talk to him. And he always cares for us, and he will always provide a way out. There's a passage in Exodus chapter 2 that talks about God with the Israelites and how he heard their cries and he saw what they were going through and he knew what they needed and he acted. He still does that. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The Jesus and God that we see in the Bible is still the same today. He still hears. He still sees us. He still knows our needs and he still cares for us. It's not always as dramatic as my story with the angel. Sometimes it's just a hug when we need one, or a friendly smile that tells us that, I know you've had a rough day, I'm here for you. But God always sees us and always cares, whether we feel it or not. So let's take a moment, we'll pray together. Will you pray with me? Dear Jesus, thank you so much that you love us always, and you promise never to leave us, never to abandon us. And even if we don't feel you close to us, you are still there, and you still hear us and see us and care for us. Help us to remember that. We ask this in your name. Amen. Bye, kids. Hope you have a good rest of your break.